Don't blame the player, blame the game. Joey Logano's career in a nutshell, I think at this point, is being defined by this phrase. And this phrase is going to be the byline of the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series season. I know that a lot of people have a lot of thoughts about what happened at Las Vegas yesterday. And overall, I think it was actually a really fun race. I get a lot of people were pissed off and telling me that I'm just sugarcoating it, or I'm just saying that because of, I don't know, just whatever dumbass reasons they have. But at this point, I really did think the race was good, and that was what I was focused on. Now, the championship side of it, well, I think that this is kind of the litmus test. I think that Joey Logano as a driver is the biggest litmus test for NASCAR fans on what side of the aisle they go on it. And there's two ways that really NASCAR fans go, because no NASCAR fan is a fence sitter. Nobody sits in the middle. Everybody has an opinion. And there are those who are for the playoffs and those who are against it. And they will fight their sides vehemently. And with that, I think that we need to kind of look at this, because I do think that both sides do have, if not reasonable thoughts on it, at least logical thoughts. You can see where people come from, even if you disagree with it. First off, you have those against the playoffs. I will let you know off the top, this is where I stand on it. I am not a playoff guy, but I watch more for the races and the championship anyway, so it's affected me, I think, a bit less as of late. And those against the playoffs will say this: Joey Logano has been garbage just about all season long. Yes, he has 3 wins, but when you look at the way he has run throughout the season, this is not a driver who set the world on fire in any way. With 3 races remaining in the season, those 3 wins are accompanied overall with 6 top 5s, 11 top 10s, and a 17.5 average finish. If you were to read that stat line to somebody and not tell them what year it was or who the driver was and just have them guess, they'd probably guess someone like Jeff Gordon in 2005. Somebody who, won a couple races, but was largely trash for much of the year. But this is not a driver who has run outside of the playoffs. This is not a driver who has been eliminated already. This is a driver who is running for the championship at Phoenix in a couple weeks. This is a driver who statistically would be far and away the worst champion ever in the Cup Series. So there is, I think, a bit of a storyline that people are building in their minds with that. You also could look at their argument and say, hey, he got in off of a 5 overtime win at Nashville, where his teammate caused the caution, obviously not intentionally to get him a win, but where he was running 14th at the time of that caution, and it was just those running out of fuel and crashing each other that gave him a win. He's run 14th to 18th in points all year, and now he is the championship favorite due to a 1-race title at a track that heavily favors both himself, Team Penske, and Ford. And even if you're not somebody who wants to see an old school chase or the Lapford system come back, you have to acknowledge these are valid points. This is not somebody who is the best of the best in 2024, and it is quite evident by the reactions people have to it. But just as there are 2 sides to a coin, there are 2 sides to this argument, and there are those who are for the playoffs who I think can rebut a lot of these and maybe make some of their own points as well. First off, they would bring up Joey Logano is good where and when it matters most. Yeah, he has probably been pretty garbage all year, but he managed to get a win during the regular season, which he manages to do pretty much every single year. He managed to get a win at the start to give him some more playoff points. He was just good enough to take advantage of Alex Bowman's disqualification, and he got a win off of a fuel mileage race, which I will agree with people who defend Joey Logano on this, say that it is very talent-based when it comes to that. Not every driver can save fuel in a great way, and Joey Logano was one of the best. When you look at it as well, the team has put resources into being good at the right time of year, being the end of the year in the playoffs, and the right tracks. He has been better in the playoffs than he has been in the regular season. Not great by any means, but better. And the tracks that he is the best at will be Martinsville and Phoenix. The last 2 races, which I would think a lot would argue are the most important 2 races. They'll also argue it's not his fault that the schedule lines up perfectly for him to just win it all. Yeah, Martinsville and Phoenix are his best tracks. But NASCAR has placed Martinsville there so they can have a bit more drama to make the Final Four. And Phoenix is there simply for economic reasons. That's not on Joey Logano. He just managed to take advantage of something that played well into his favor. And of course, don't blame the player, blame the game. The 22 team has more or less figured out how to beat or at least excel in this playoff system. And if others are to beat him, they're going to need to do the same. They're going to need to be good at the end of the year the way he is. They're going to need to make sure they can win a race even if they're not good during the year. And they need to make sure they're good at the tracks that NASCAR puts at the end. Whether it be Martinsville and Phoenix, Martinsville and Homestead, Phoenix and Homestead, whichever duo of tracks or whatever 4 tracks end off the year, they got to be good in them. That's just something that Joey Logano and the 22 team have done well. Now, on the entire overlook of this, I'll say my part here. I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to championships, at least. There are things I'll fudge on. I like the Roval when it came out. I actually defend the next gen on tracks bigger than a mile. And overall, I think that there can be some positives to the changes NASCAR has made. That's where I stand on it. I'm not going to go off of where I've stood since really I started watching the sport. And with it, I'm going to say this too. Joey Logano is not elite in 2024. He is not one of the best. And I will hold steady to what I said before the playoffs, during the last round, and throughout the last week. I don't think Joey Logano deserves to be in the playoffs. And I certainly don't think he deserves to be in the round of 8 or the Final Four. With that, I will say this. I think that playoff defenders, they have good points, but I think that they value the entertainment value over the naturally fought out title. And that is a just defining line between motorsport fans. NASCAR is trying to get more of this kind of audience, and to their credit, whether it be from traditionalists closer to my end leaving the sport or them attracting newer fans, they are cultivating that fan base slowly. Though it has been over 20 years of a chase style format, and it has been now almost, or if not more now, I think than a decade of elimination style, they're finally getting what they want. For me, though, you also have to look at the arguments that both sides have when it comes to trying to steelman their approach. When you look at those who defend a season-long traditionalist Latford system, you're looking at those who might see the flaws in it being, well, they don't value winners as much, or they don't maybe have the best championship fights every year. Well, the winner one, I think, is something that you don't have to fundamentally change the system to end up fixing or at least mending a bit. You just award a few more points. And when you look at championship fights not really panning out, well, I think those actually help the value of the ones that do. 1992 is not as special if you don't have years like 2003 that make it special and put it on that pedestal. And I think when you look at a lot of people who defend the playoffs, the gripes they have with it fundamentally change how the championship is approached. The two biggest gripes I see with even those who like the playoffs is when you're in and a single race finale for the championship. Many say that it should be flipped. One race for the first round, then 3-3-3. And with that, yeah, that probably would make a little bit more fair of a championship fight, but would fundamentally change the way the championship is fought. And of course, the win and you're in would definitely fundamentally change the regular season of NASCAR. Instead of having those storylines throughout the year, if you're doing it based on the top 16 in points, then you are definitely going to have some that don't end out as dramatically as others. There are just a lot of ways I think we can argue this, and whether or not NASCAR changes is, in my opinion, not even up to us. It's up to the networks and who thinks they can get the most money out of what. And I'll just say this, for those like me who watch simply for the races and not the title, keep watching for that. And for those who are like me and kind of going crazy about it, just watch for the races, enjoy the racing side of it, and just sort of ignore or just use the championship as something that you can just sort of go past. It can be a happy little annoyance on the side for you if you want. If you want a deserving storyline driver who wins and is qualified in off of 5 overtime finishes, a super speedway win, a disqualification of another driver before ending up being able to get himself in. If you want that driver to be viewed in a traditionalist sense as a deserving champion, you're going to drive yourself mad. You might as well change the way you view stuff when it comes to how you watch each week. Even if you don't value the championship, at least value the races, because the races overall can end up being a lot more fun. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to you. Where do you stand on Joey Logano getting this far? And listen, it's good to disagree. You don't have to agree with me or the other commenters. All I ask is just be civil down below. All right, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great and fun NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support. And until next time, have a good one.